Well, there are Olympic medals, and then there are championships, all of which this man has won. And although he finished fourth today, I know everybody here in Milwaukee and Wauwatosa would have a nice round of applause for a great champion, Don Carter. Don?
Thank you, Jim.
Don, this has been a tremendous comeback year for you. Could you quickly analyze what you've done to make it so?
Well, I think a couple of different things are responsible, Chris. One, I'm bowling much more than I was, and I've made a couple of minor changes in my delivery, starting with the ball over on the side, keeping my hand in the side position longer, and the ball has been much more effective. And, as I say, bowling more of the tournaments, that helps, too.
Yes, your plans probably have you going week in and week out on the tour?
Yes, I'm going to make the last 5 now on the Saturday television tour.
The change was brought about by conditions I know, and of course these young bowlers, Don, they're pretty tough, aren't they?
They're very tough. The old ones, too, you know.
How about the old? Well, 49 is not so old. He's talking about Joe Joseph, who, that 254 is something to cope with against anybody, isn't it, Don?
I guess it is. That's 2 weeks in a row, you know. That 250 is pretty hard to beat, and Joe bowled beautifully, though. You can't take that away from him.
You know, and he told us earlier that he has had back problems since he was 14 years old.
He didn't have any today, I'll tell you.
Don, I know.
He's giving us back problems.
Don, one of the great ladies in America is your mom, and I'm sure she's back in St. Louis, and I know she's proud of you, even though you finished fourth.
Well, I'm sure she is, and she's still bowling 3 nights a week, so she's very active.
Thank you, Don Carter. Thank you very much. We're ready for the championship match now between Joe Joseph and Johnny Guenther. The start of that action coming up on the Professional Bowlers Tour. And now in the final match worth $10,000 to the winner, from Seattle, Washington, Johnny Guenther, the tournament leader.
And Chris would like to point out one thing. Joe Joseph is in a position of going all the way. While he did not come from fifth, he came from fourth, which is really the same, bowling in that first match and moving right up the ladder.
And repeating his first game, 224 against Fred Lening, 254 against Don Carter, and 235 against Jim Stefanich. First stroke. A split.
There you see it. He's going to move to his right, try and roll the ball cross lane to the left, touching that 4 on the left-hand side, and slide it into the 9.
Now Johnny Guenther, 31-year-older from Seattle, Washington, and regarded as probably the best professional bowler in the Pacific Northwest. Getting a little help.
He came out of 13th position in the 4th round of the qualifier to be the qualifying leader, and he's been in the lead ever since.
He was 8th at Las Vegas, 5th at San Jose, 8th in the Cougar Open, Kansas City. Johnny Guenther, 31 years old, going against 49-year-old Joe Joseph. Let's see if he bounces back from that open frame.
About as well as you can bounce back, Chris.
Phenomenal. After an open frame in the first, he comes back with a double against the tournament leader, Johnny Guenther. A young man who was one of the first bowlers to join the PBA when it was organized by Eddie Elias back in 1959. Johnny Guenther, one of the popular bowlers among his fellow professionals, was awarded the Steve Nagy Memorial Sportsmanship Award in memory of the late Mr. Nagy.
Chris, now Johnny Guenther has a little more hoof than Joe Joseph, so he's going to be a little more to his left and using a little more speed to delay that break. The interesting thing about Johnny Guenther's delivery is how he positions himself in the stance. As he takes his stance, you'll notice that he positions the ball very far in front of him, arms extended. Looks uncomfortable, but it works for him.
Rolling a powerful ball even in covering a single pin, Johnny Guenther. Let's watch Gunther's arm swing in slow motion.
Here you see, as he pushes the ball away, he goes into a slight crouch. He's bent forward at the waist. There you see the arm swing working freely.
Back live on Joe Joseph. The 4, the 7, and the 10. Next week we'll be in Depew, New York, a suburb of Buffalo, New York.
At the Fair Lanes.
And the following week, the $60,000 Ebonite Open.
The 4-9 again, Chris, and of course he's got to go for it. He's falling behind.
Really not having competed in a lot of tournaments and being 49 years old would be a little tiring with the pressure on. And
could be, Chris, because he is just a little bit slower than he was in his first 3 matches.
As Johnny Guenther now leads by 25 pins. He is the tournament leader. He has been waiting quite some time now to bowl this one match for the championship. Really cranks that ball up.
Complete hush, long reach. Trips that 4 like Thomas.
And of course, Billy was referring to Pete Tondas of Tucson, Arizona. And now, Joe Joseph. Back-to-back open frames, shooting in the 6th, trailing by 35. Gets some help, and the 5 goes out.
Had his good speed again, Chris. Laid that one down.
As we mentioned, next week on the Professional Bowlers Tour, we'll be at the Fair Lanes in Depew, New York for the $45,000 Greater Buffalo Open. And next week on Wide World of Sports, it'll be NCAA Indoor Track and Field Championships from Cobo Hall in Detroit, live and in color. Plus, the Joe Frazier-Buster Mathis heavyweight fight from the new Madison Square Garden. Pair of dandies on Wide World.
Gunther's got to be pretty happy right now, Chris. That shot was not a good one, to say the least, and he came out with a 9-pin count.
And now up comes the big man. Round, stocky, from Lansing, Michigan, with a double up. And the double came after a pair of open frames. Three in a row. Now, the lead has been cut to 12 pins. Gunther still leading by 12. in a row. And now, Johnny Guenther's lead has been cut to 2 pins. Gunther shooting in the 9th frame with a spare up. This is the final match worth 10 grand to the winner. The loser, 5,000.
Chris, now it's not only strikes and spares, it is count. Johnny Guenther working on a spare, and of course Joe Joseph on the string of strikes. Count is very important too.
Came up high. Wow.
Chris, Johnny's got to make a calculated decision. You see him checking the score screen now. He's got to decide whether to play for 1 pin. Of course, we'll put him down if he has an open, but realizing that Joe Joseph in the 10th frame working on the string of strikes could lose count if he would open.
The 6-7.
He's a pretty bold player. He's going for it. He's going for it.
Johnny Guenther now shooting in the 10th frame. The tournament leader. A powerful arm.
He needs a powerful strike, too.
Gets it.
Chris, he needs another powerful strike.
Big stroke right here.
Ooh. That's getting it out of there in the most gentle of fashions. Chris, if he ever wanted a strike in his life, he wants one on this ball.
Tremendous. After an open in the 9th frame, he comes back with 3 strikes in a row to shoot an even 200.
Chris, that's really putting the pressure on Joe Joseph. He likes lane 20. He needs a strike. If he does not strike, he must strike on his extra ball and needs a count of 9 if he doesn't strike here.
High.
Chris, we're going down to the last ball. Do you realize we could have a sudden death playoff, Chris? If he spares and gets 9, it is a tie game.
That brings to mind the one with Fred Lening and Ray Bluth at Parkersburg, West Virginia. First tie game roll-off. As Joe Joseph covers that lone pin, roll-offs are things that we don't have too often. The Firestone Tournament of Champions in Parkersburg, West Virginia. And Billy, that $100,000 Firestone Tournament of Champions comes up on April 6th on ABC.
Right, Chris. And to get there, he needs a strike on this ball. This is a $10,000 ball. If he strikes, he wins 9 or less. Chris, he loses by a pin.
Wow. Joe Joseph, who rolled games of 224, 254, 235, shoots a 199, and his opponent, Johnny Guenther, a 200. Wow. We'll be back in just a minute to meet the Miller High Life Open champion. Well, here he is, Johnny Guenther, and Johnny was never in doubt.
Well, I'm glad to be out here, Grant. I don't know about that never in doubt bit, but...
Wasn't that a thriller right down to the wire with a strike, a victory, a 9, a tie, and you did it. Waiting.
Waiting. Joe bowled great all the way through, and I don't know, it just the breaks, you know, in a one-game match, it just happened that I was fortunate enough to come out on top this time.
I bet the folks in Seattle are proud of you.
Well, I hope so. I think they are.